Hello and a special good evening to those of you on the Brisbane timeline, southeast Queensland neighbours. What I want to talk to you today about is something that I saw when I took this photo. I'm of course going to zoom in on the finer parts of this photo, but what I'm going to talk to you about is something that I wrote in the book, The Holy Grail of Science, and especially under the section of frequencies within our Earth, how our Earth was created from one of those lines, one of those four lines that you saw just then on the front of the book. And eventually our Earth, as it began from merely a frequency, it began accumulating ultra microscopic particles of dust, which then helped strengthen the field because it was those particles were in the same resonant frequency as the energy of our Earth, our conceived Earth, if I could put it that way, before it had come out of the womb. So as that conceived, oh my God, I can't believe my brain sometimes. I'm sure you know the word I'm looking for. It doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to describe is, without looking at that photo, is an early energy Earth, as it existed as merely a frequency with minuscule, absolutely minuscule energy. And somehow the energy grew enough to begin accumulating those ultra microscopic particles of dust in space, which were in resonant frequency with the energy. And then as those microscopic, ultra microscopic particles of dust began to help strengthen the frequency, which was in a ball shape. I must point out it was already in a ball shape. As it tried to, as those particles accumulated, and of course they were a great deal of iron and carbon. I'm no expert. I'm no scientist on exactly the constitution of what our Earth is made up of, but I'm told that it's a high percentage of iron, high percentage of carbon, and carbon is iron. So anyway, molecules of carbon. So anyway, that's beside the point. The particles, without getting into the semantics, the politics of what our Earth is made of, consists of, let's just talk about particles which were attracted in the same frequency as our Earth. That's an easier way to understand it when you're talking about other planets as well, and the particles that they attracted, which were in resonant frequency with each planet, and each planet being in a different frequency. So, okay. So now what I said was that the inner cores of our Earth were in different frequencies. I said that in another video. And now the magnetic field consists of many lines if we go back to that original diagram as that we learned in school, of course, I'm going to make this video shorter and more concise later on. So you're seeing the rough part of the artistry. Some of those great painters that we know of took 20 and 30 years, sometimes a lifetime, to create the end result of one painting. So if you're knocking me, just bear with me. Learn to bear with me for a moment, hey? So I'll see if I can go back to a see if I can go back to and I'm going to edit. Okay, I would have to go through one of the videos. Let's go back to one of the videos. Look at that. The last time I was in this video, the perfect scenario. So this is our Earth, and I tried to say in this video that there were magnetic lines on our Earth. This is our Earth tilted onto its side to align with the magnet running across the screen. And some of those lines, magnetic ley lines, extend out into the sky. And in the book, as I said, that's what makes our sky blue. And as we go up in elevation into the next layer, which is the stratosphere, where the ozone gases primarily sit, there are different frequencies of ley lines. And as we go further, there are different frequencies again, and etc., until it fades out. And that blue hue, that blue neon light per se that we see around the Earth, is actually a particular frequency generated and projecting out, expanding out from where the energy comes from, creating the source of lights, different frequencies of blue. Blue being in the frequency of carbon or whatever the consistency of our Earth is. So now, to help you understand, that's what that other video was all about. To help you understand what will help you understand that our Earth exists in different frequencies and it has a electrical circuit. I'm going to help you understand our Earth and its frequencies by approaching your subconscious. I'm going to call it the super subconscious. Freud talked about the conscious mind, and he talked about the subconscious mind and that ridiculous cigar statement that he made. So derogative towards everyone. Politics again, sorry about that, folks. So what I want to talk about that sits back there is your super subconscious. Well, our conscious mind is what we see and hear and touch and feel, etc. And let's call it logic too. Logical mind is your conscious mind, and your subconscious mind is what's supposed to be operating in the background, a little bit like the RAM when people created computers. They had the minds in play. So I believe we have what I call a super subconscious mind, or a God force mind, a God mind, not a God mind, a God mind. And God is a term of mine that I've used ever since day dot. So to help you understand the energy exists in our earth, etc., I'm going to speak to your super subconscious, and I'm going to talk to you about subjects that your super subconscious already knows about and is sitting back there saying to you, oh, hang on a second, there's something about that, or etc., where you go into using your intuition and stuff like that. Freud didn't talk about the subconscious being parts of your intuition and stuff. He talked about it having a greater understanding and stuff of other things, etc. So I'm talking about your super subconscious being a part of your intuition, your God force, your clairvoyant, where mediumship lies and stuff like that. The American Indians called it the crack in the universe, and you could enter the crack in the universe. I haven't got anything technical that you can't understand in regards to that. I mean, I don't portray anything to do with mediumship as anything that is extremely technical like that somebody of age can't understand. Everybody should be able to understand mediumship. It's straightforward. So now what I'm going to say is that we'll approach into your super subconscious, and you will already know about, and you'll bring it forward in your mind and say, oh, right, that type of thing that's sitting back there. So this tree, and in when I edit this, I'll zoom in. So I'm going to point, and these needle pines could very easily help you recognize your nervous system. Let's call it something else. Let's call it your electrical system. So your nervous system, I'm getting the feeling that I might be slightly wrong there. Let's call this your electrical system, and your nervous system is actually something else. Your nervous system may be what the electrical is carried upon, the wires per se. So with this needle pine tree, you can see that limbs come out here, and it's sort of furry, looks like furry needles coming out. Well, that is exactly the same in the human body, except that when these needle pines here hit the surface, just before they hit the surface of the skin, they break out in like a what they call the nardus. We were taught in college 30-something years ago. I haven't read about it since then, so I'm going to go on what I remember as being told back then by the professor, the great professor, Michel Blondel. And so when the ends of these needle pines reach the surface of your skin, they come into a nardus like that, if I can explain it like that. And it's a round piece that sheds onto your skin, and isn't the pores of your skin, it's actually next to it. We're talking about in the epidermal layer of your skin. So by talking about that, you can sort of relate to it, because it's there in your super subconscious. Whether or not you trained as a doctor or educated in naturopathic or anything bodily wise, you would be aware of it. You would be aware of it. The great martial artists had sensor points that they could touch, and they might be, if I can say, where the limbs branched off of the main limb and etc. If you can see, as a branch on this needle pine tree comes out and there it branches again, that could be considered, say, as your elbow type thing. The Chinese studied nature and applied what they saw in nature, the rivers and streams, etc., to the human body before, I was told, they even touched the body. So what we're talking about there is Chinese medicine in the sit-down situation. So in the classroom. So what I'm going to tell you today is actually very exciting. I'm sorry that you had to put up with my low energy this evening, but at 7 o'clock after zooming up and down the coast and getting some things done down there, where I learnt this, I'm always working. I realised something to help you understand how the frequencies change throughout the actual crust and etc. of the earth, the cores of our earth, and then as they come and the magnetic ley lines enter the sky, they create the blue sky, and in a different frequency, and a frequency that is not as strong in electrical energy, magnetic energy, as the energy that created and accumulated the earth ball. Sorry about that, but it's a way to be able to understand it. The globe, yeah. So what happens is I'm saying, and science, I'm sure, disagree with me, that the blue sky is a particular frequency produced by the source inside our globe, inside our earth ball. Now, evidence of that, which is contrary to science, who they don't describe the sky like that, is like this. If they are saying that let's turn the TV off and try that, hey? If science is saying that there's a molten lava ball, and I say that molten lava ball is spinning and generating a gyro gravity effect. And then there's another outer core that's another core outside of the molten lava core, and it's a perfect ball too. It has to be a perfect ball because that's how the energy was when the Earth began accumulating ultra microscopic particles of Earth, of dust, to be the Earth. So then there's the outer crust, and then there's another one as well. And I'm saying that the sky is blue out here because of the ley lines that are there. And I've said that before in other videos. If you want to understand exactly what I'm talking about and you can't, then go back and watch Rainbows Only Run from North to South, and you'll see it mentioned there and described. So what I'm saying is, so we've got the sky, which is called science just simply calls it the atmosphere, and then we've got a layer on the outside called the stratosphere. Now, what happens is the stratosphere contains ozone gases where they accumulate, and they allow unfriendly gases allow UV light to come through more. And they said it was in patches and stuff. So let me tell you this, evidence that what I say is correct, that the sky and the stratosphere and that blue hue are all different frequencies of blue which are generated within our Earth from the source, which I think is the molten lava ball. Evidence that they are an actual energy with a frequency vibrating in that color is this. If and it is, whilst our atmosphere is heating up, why aren't those layers, like the stratosphere, expanding out? Why isn't the atmosphere, general atmosphere of our Earth, getting hotter and expanding out and pushing the stratosphere, because it's getting hotter too, etc., expanding out? And why is it moving? Because it's a stationary frequency. It's an energy which is stationary. It's there all the time, being expelled from the core of our Earth. I did think of something today which helps us to understand this as well, but I can't remember it. So, okay then. Some of the things that are also helping our Earth, well, going against our Earth, causing global warming, is something I noticed today when somebody walked on artificial grass, which was very hot, and very strangely enough, that person can normally walk on a hot road or something. So remember that pavers get hot, artificial grasses get hot, bitumen roads get hot, and what percentage of the Earth now consists of those in coatings, which, let's say, I don't know what percentage it is, but let's say for ease of sake, it was 10% of accumulation of artificial grasses, pavers, bitumen, and I don't think that concrete gets so hot. So let's say it's 10%. Well, 10% hotter with, well, 10% of more heat blending in with the 90%, you know. So anyway, it's getting hotter, and that's another reason why. So again, as I said, the joint's warming up, the place is warming up, global warming is happening, and if global warming is happening, then the atmosphere is getting hotter than what it was before. And why isn't it expanding? Because in lieu of my book, where I said that the colors of the sky and the different color of the stratosphere and the different color of the spheres outside of that, the atmospheres outside of the stratosphere, due to them being an actual electromagnetic frequency, which has a frequency, exists in a frequency, due to that, it's not an expanding heating gas. And I gave a very strong hint about this when I spoke about my video about volcanoes, and mentioned that volcanoes explode the plume straight up into the stratosphere. Mount Vesuvius, 33 kilometers, 33,000 meters, and the Tongan video, the Tongan volcano in 2022, 47 to 48 kilometers of the plume straight up. And so I was saying in that video about volcanoes, just as I said in my book, that volcano eruptions are one of the four lines magnified onto the earth, bottlenecked and magnified, just like when sunlight goes through a magnifying glass and comes to a point. It's all energy. Light is made up of magnetic and electrical energy. Let me say that if I was to talk to you about a vector diagram, I spoke to one of the great chaps in our church before church one day, and if I was to draw you a couple of them, a vector diagram, this is the center, and this vector here is, say, electricity, then right next to it is going to be magnetics, electromagnetic energy. Now, magnetic energy was there before electrical energy. So if I was to draw the vector diagram properly, then I would draw it like this. This is magnetic energy in the vector diagram, and it would be right out to the extremities of this circle. And electrical in a magnet, if I was looking at a magnet, might be right back here in the vector diagram. But with movement inside the magnetic field, electrical and magnetics will change. Magnetics will come right back to here, and electrical up there. And there is, of course, some point in time where magnetics and electrical are equal, you know. So besides that, so electrical, magnetic together, side by side on the vector diagram, and out here next to electrical is light. They are very closely related. Now, if we strike an arc on a welder, on an electric welder, we get light emitted from the arc. And of course, there is also magnetic energy there as well. And we know for a fact that infrared light, UV light, which is dangerous to our eyes when we weld, is produced as well. So somehow, it's not a subject for today, but it's food for thought. I'll come back to you with it another day, I'm sure, that magnetic energy, electrical energy, light energy are all very close in the same, not even the quadrant, but same area of the vector diagram. They're all cousins of each other. A little bit like Einstein married his first cousin and Darwin married his first cousin, but sidetracked, and it's a Pulp Fiction video all over again. Sorry about that. So anyway, it's time to have a shower and a shave and other stuff, and I might be able to come back maybe in the morning and do another video. But here it is. You're in the artist's studio, and let me say you're in Mick Cox's house, and absolutely nobody should be making any other videos in this house unless they're doing it illegally. Nobody should be in this house other than Mick Cox and who he invites in. Otherwise, they're here illegally. Same as your home as well. I don't mean to be any different to anyone else. 18th of March 2026. We've only been rolling for about 10 minutes, 29 minutes, 30 minutes, so not too bad. I might put this up and without editing and etc. Loading it up onto those great people that help do my editing, InShot, and then YouTube. So I'll put this straight up on YouTube without the edit. I'm half asleep, I think. It was a big day yesterday afternoon. So anyway, enjoy your evening. God damn, what day is it? Wednesday. Oh my God. I think it's night, folks. Night. Now it's time to have something nutritious to eat. See you again soon after I edit. Bye, folks. Blessings to you all.